The mansion always felt too big, too quiet, too empty, despite the fact you were married. Jungkook barely looked at you, let alone touched you. Nights were the hardest. The king size bed might as well have been a frozen battlefield. He would either sleep on the farthest edge or not come to bed at all, disappearing into his office with files, weapons, and endless meetings with his men. At dinner, the silence was unbearable, the clinking of cutlery against porcelain echoed in the dining hall, but he never said a word. You would glance up, hoping for even a small question like, "Did you eat well?" or "How was your day?" But his eyes were always glued to his phone or the documents beside his plate. You finally gathered the courage one night to speak. "Jungkook, do you even see me, or am I just someone living in your house?" For a brief second, his dark eyes lifted from the papers. His jaw tightened, but his voice was cold, detached. "This marriage was never about love. Don't expect what I can give." Those words carved themselves into your chest, and after that, you stopped trying. You felt invisible, unloved, unwanted. When you discovered you were pregnant, fear coursed through you first, not joy. You didn't know how Jungkook would react. Would he be furious? Would he see the baby as a burden, a distraction from his empire? You stood in his office one evening, hands trembling as you clutched the test results. He sat behind his grand mahogany desk, tie loosened, cigarette burning slowly between his fingers. "Jungkook, I am pregnant." The words fell heavy into the room. He froze. For the first time in months. You saw shock flicker in his eyes, but he masked it quickly, leaning back in chair. "Pregnant," he exhaled, running a hand over his face. His silence was worse than yelling. You braced yourself, tears stinging your eyes, but he simply said, "Do whatever you want. I need time." And with that, he dismissed you. Months passed. He didn't involve himself in the pregnancy. No doctor visits, no late night cravings, no gentle hand on your growing belly. You felt like you were carrying this child alone. But everything changed the night Aaron was born. The delivery was long and exhausting, your cries echoing through the sterile hospital room. When the nurse finally placed the tiny, fragile baby in your arms, tears spilled down your face. You whispered softly, "Aaron, my little miracle." Jungkook stood near the wall, tense and silent. He hadn't moved the entire time. But when Aaron whimpered, a small broken sound, Jungkook's head snapped toward him, almost unwillingly. Jungkook stepped forward. The nurse carefully placed Aaron in his arms. For a man who commanded hundreds of men and instilled fear with a single glance, Jungkook's hands shook as he held his son for the first time. Aaron's tiny fist curled around Jungkook's finger. Jungkook's lips parted. His throat worked as if he wanted to say something, but no words came. His eyes softened, glistening in the dim hospital light. He let out a shaky breath, whispering almost to himself, "He is mine." You nodded weakly from the bed, watching the cracks in his cold facade appear for the first time. From that moment, something shifted. Slowly, almost reluctantly, Jungkook began to change. He started noticing you, asking if you were eating enough, staying up late to rock Aaron to sleep, even brushing his fingers gently over your hair when he thought you were asleep. The cold man who once told you not to expect love was now a father, and though Aaron, he was beginning to see you in a new light, not as a stranger in his house, but as the woman who gave him his greatest treasure. Life inside the mansion wasn't as lonely as before. Ever since Aaron had arrived, the cold silence was often replaced with giggles, babbling, and the sound of tiny feet pattering across the marble floor. You were seated on the rug in the living room one afternoon, toys scattered around, while Aaron sat between your legs, his chubby little hands reaching toward his favorite toy car. His dark doe eyes, so much like Jungkook's, sparkled with mischief. Mommy, your heart melted instantly. You gasped, cupping his round cheeks as he giggled proudly at himself. Oh my god, Aaron, did you just call me mommy? You peppered his face with kisses, laughter spilling out of you. At that moment, Jungkook entered the room, loosening his tie after a long day at work. He stopped mid-step, his eyes widening ever so slightly as he took in the scene. Eden's head turned toward him. Daddy, the word was imperfect, broken in half, but it made Jungkook freeze. His cold mask faltered as warmth spread across his features, though he quickly tried to hide it with a scoff. You call her perfectly, but me, you stumble. You roll your eyes at his act, but your lips curl into a smile as Aaron scrambled toward him on all fours. Jungkook sighed and bent down, scooping the little boy into his arms effortlessly. Aaron, as if there was his mission, reached up and grabbed Jungkook's loosened tie, tugging it until it nearly strangled him. He loves your tie too much. I think he believes it belongs to him now. Only you get away with pulling me around like this. Aiden babbled happily, tugging Jungkook's hair next. Jungkook winced, muttering curses under his breath, but his lips curved in a secret smile, one he thought you couldn't see, but you did every time. Later that evening, when the three of you were curled up together, Eden's small voice broke through again. He pointed at you, then at Jungkook, his little brows furrowed in concentration. Daddy hugged Mommy. Your eyes widened. Heat rushing to your cheeks. Jungkook froze, caught off guard by the innocent demand. For a moment, silence stretched in the room. Then, with a deep sigh, Jungkook shifted Eren onto his lap and wrapped a protective arm around your shoulders. Happy now, little boss? Eden clapped his tiny hands, squealing with delight. You couldn't help but laugh, leaning into Jungkook's warmth. His arm tightened around you unconsciously, his eyes narrowing at anyone who dared look in from the hallway. That was the thing about Jungkook, he would never admit it aloud, but Eren had cracked his armor, and through Eren, he had found himself instinctively shielding you too. For the first time, you didn't feel invisible anymore. You felt like a family. The grand ballroom glowed beneath the glittering crystal chandeliers, their light scattering across gold-trimmed walls and polished marble floors. The air was rich with the scent of wine and expensive perfumes, a symphony of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses waving through the room. Powerful mafia, powerful mafia allies, sleek politicians, and high-class guests filled the mansion men in tailored suits. Women in flowing gowns all here for one reason to honor Jung Jungkook, the ruthless kingpin who commanded fear and respect. You stood at Jungkook's side, Eden balanced carefully in your arms. He was dressed in a miniature black tuxedo, a tiny bow tie that he kept nudging at with his pudgy fingers. The sight of him softened the intimidating aura of the mafia boss hosting the evening, and several guests couldn't help but smile at the innocent little boy. Jungkook leaned down slightly, his deep voice brushing against her ear. If Aaron gets tired, let me know. I'll have the car take you both upstairs. It was subtle, quiet, but protective. A small reassurance in a sea of strangers. But then she walked in, Serena, the famous actress whose name never left the headlines, her beauty face in every magazine cover and talk show. She glided into the ballroom in a scarlet silk gown that clung perfectly to her hourglass figure, her glossy hair falling in waves, diamond earrings catching every shot of light. Conversations faltered, heads turned, and in that moment you felt yourself shrink. Your fingers instinctively adjusted your dress, the faint self consciousness tugging at you like a noose. Serena's beauty was effortless, untouched by time or the struggles of motherhood, whereas your body, though cherished for carrying Eden, still bore the marks of sleepless nights, stress, and birth. Serena's sharp eyes locked onto Jungkook immediately. A knowing smile curved her lips as she moved closer, hips swaying, ignoring everyone else in the room. Well, Jungkook, her voice dripped with confidence, familiarity, possession. She glanced at you briefly, then at the child in your arms, before letting her gaze settle back on Jungkook. With one elegant hand, she brushed her fingers along his sleeve. It's been too long. You still wear the same expression, the one I used to know so well. You stiffened. The audacity of her touch made your chest tighten. Jungkook, however, didn't flinch. He merely raised a brow, his arm shifting subtly behind you as though creating a barrier. Serena, I didn't expect you to show up. Oh, don't sound so harsh. You know I was bound to come. How could I miss the empire I once stood beside? Her words pricked at your insecurities, a reminder that she had once been here, once been important to him. You swallowed, eyes lowering, but then her voice cut through again, sharper this time. And why, my how you have changed. Motherhood leaves its marks, doesn't it? I mean, you were already ordinary, but after the baby, a small group of guests nearby overheard, some hiding smirks behind their glasses, others pretending not to listen. You froze, heat rushing to your face, shame flooding your veins. You wanted to disappear, but before you could even react, Jungkook's hand gripped your waist tightly, pulling you flush against his height. His jaw clenched, his eyes glacial as he stared Serena down. Watch your mouth. The words sliced through the noise, his voice carrying enough volume to silence the chatter around you. Serena's smile faltered, but she masked it with a fake laugh, tilting her head. Oh, come on, I was only teasing. Don't tell me you have grown soft, Chungu. I remember when you didn't. She reached again, her manicured hand brushing against his forearm, as though to reclaim what she believed was hers. But Chungu caught her wrist mid-air. His grip was firm, his eyes blazing. You remember wrong. Whatever we had is dead. Touch me again and you'll regret it. She is my wife, the mother of my son, and the only woman I'll ever want. His words cut deeper than any weapon, and they were not just mean for Serena, they were mean for everyone watching, a declaration that you were untouchable. But before the weight of his words could settle, a small innocent voice broke through the icy tension. No, sad mommy. Daddy hugged mommy. Your eyes widened in shock. Aiden's little hands tucked at Jungkook's shirt, his round face scrunched up in determination. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd, softening the air that had been suffocating only moments ago. Even the most stone faced guests couldn't help but smile at the tiny boy's demand. Jungkook glanced down at his son, the corners of his lips twitching despite himself. His cold facade cracked, replaced with something warmer, something human. Without hesitation, he tightened his hold on you, pulling you entirely against his chest. You hear that? Daddy always listens to his little boss. Aiden squealed with joy, clapping his chubby hands while you buried your face into Jungkook's shoulder. Your heart pounding for everyone else, it was a spectacle proof that even the ruthless John Jungkook bowed to his wife and child. For you, it was something far more intimate, undeniable proof that no matter how beautiful, powerful, or cruel Serena tried to be, Jungkook had already chosen his family, and there was no undoing that. The party carried on, but Serena wasn't done. Her pride was wounded, her ego bruised after Jungkook's public rejection, yet she refused to live quietly. She stepped closer, her perfume sharp and suffocating as she leaned toward you with a smile so sweet it made your stomach twist. Her eyes, however, told the truth. They gleamed with venom. May I hold him just for a moment? She extended her arms toward Aaron, her manicured nails catching the light. A few nearby guests watched with curiosity, whispering. You hesitated, clutching your baby tighter. Before you could answer, Aaron buried his face into your neck, his little fists clutching your dress as he whined softly. Aaron didn't want to go to strangers. The words were simple, but the rejection stung Serena's pride. You forced a laugh, tilting her head. Oh, children are fickle, but beauty fades, wine. And when he grows up, when you are left with nothing but scars and wrinkles, let's see if Jungkook still looks at you the same way. The words were whispered low, meant only for you, but Jungkook heard them. His hand shot out, gripping Serena's wrist before she could retreat. His eyes were darker than midnight, his voice laced with leaden calm. Say something like that again, and I'll forget you were ever a guest in my house. Serena's face paled, her confident mask cracking under the weight of his tone. Jungkook released her slowly, but the warning lingered in the air like smoke from a gun. Don't ever look at my wife. Don't ever speak about my son. You don't get to breathe their names. Serena's lips parted, but no sound came out. Embarrassment burned in her cheeks as she turned sharply, her heels clicking furiously against the marble floor as she disappeared into the crowd. The guests who had overheard said nothing. They had seen enough to know the actress would never dare step foot in Jungkook's world again. You exhaled shakily, pressing your cheek against Eden's soft hair. Jungkook's arm wrapped firmly around your shoulders, guiding you away from the curious eyes. Later that night, the party was over. The mansion had gone quiet, the glitter and chaos of the evening replaced with the sound of crickets beyond the tall windows. Aaron was fast asleep in his crib, his tiny chest rising and falling peacefully. You stood in front of the mirror in your bedroom, staring at your reflection. The elegant gown hugged your body, but your eyes fixated on the faint stretch marks peeking just above the fabric of your waist. Serena's cruel words replaced in your mind, twisting like thorns around your heart. You didn't hear Jungkook enter until his reflection appeared behind you in the mirror. He didn't say anything at first, just stepped closer, his large hand settling on your waist, grounding you. Don't let her poison touch you. Your throat tightened. But she's right, Jungkook. My body, it's not the same. I'm not the same. You could have had. Before you could finish, he turned you around, his hand cupping your jaw with surprising gentleness. His eyes, always so cold to the word, were soft only for you. Without a word, he sank to his knees before you, his hands sliding over your hips as his lips brushed against the stretch marks on your skin. These marks are proof that you carried my higher, proof that you gave me a family when I never thought I deserved one. Your breath hissed, tears stinging your eyes as he kissed every line, every scar, even if worshipping them. You are more beautiful to me now than you ever were before. Do you understand that? You try to speak, but emotion clogged your throat. He stood again, pulling you into his arms, his lips brushing your ear as he whispered the words that broke down every wall of doubt inside you. You gave me a family wine no one could ever compare to you. Tears slipped silently down your cheeks as you buried yourself into his chest, his embrace wrapping around you like armor. And for the first time in a long time, you believed him. The grand chandelier in the hall was finally dimmed, the house quiet after the long dramatic evening. Guests had left, Serena's name no longer dared to be spoken under Jungkook's roof. The silence was thick but peaceful now, a reminder that storms always pass. He stepped into Aiden's nursery where the little one stared in his crib, his round cheeks flushed pink, his tiny fists twitching as he dreamed. But the moment he sensed your presence, his eyelids fluttered open. Mommy, your heart melted. You scooped him into your arms, swinging him gently. He nestled against your shoulder, small hands clutching at your hair. Jungkook appeared at the door, his style loosened, his sharp mafia composure replaced with something softer. He leaned against the frame, watching with an unreadable expression until Aiden spotted him. Daddy! Jungkook's lips curved, barely holding back a smile. He crossed the room, lifting Aiden with ease. Did you have fun embarrassing me today, Ordering me around in front of everyone? Aiden giggled, patting Jungkook's face clumsily. Daddy hugged Mommy. You covered your mouth to stifle a laugh, recalling how Aiden had commanded it earlier in front of the entire gathering. Jungkook groaned softly, pressing his forehead against his son's. You are already bossing me around just like your mother. Excuse me? I'm not complaining. Aiden clapped his hands happily at the sight of his parents together. Then, with sudden seriousness, he grabbed Jungkook's tie and mumbled his new favorite demand. Hate rushed to your cheeks, but before he could protest, Jungkook obeyed without hesitation, his lips finding your forehead in a slow, deliberate kiss. Aiden squealed between you both, kicking his legs as though he had just won the biggest prize. When Sugar pulled away, his eyes softened, the rarest smile tugging at his mouth. He's too much like you, knows exactly how to get what he wants. You laughed, pressing your forehead against his shoulder. Aiden snuggled into both of you, his babbling turning into nonsense. Words half mommy, half daddy, a jumble of sounds that only made your heart swell. The three of you stayed like that for a long moment. No mafia wars, no exes, no cruel words, just the warmth of your small family. Before putting Aaron back to bed, Jungkook kissed his son's tiny hand, then looked at you with a gaze so unshakable it melted every shadow of insecurity left in you. This, you and him, is my entire world. Nothing else matters. And for once, you believed him with all your heart. Later that night, you and Jungkook tucked Aaron into his crib. His little blanket was pulled up to his chin, but his wide eyes sparkled with mischief. Clearly not ready for sleep. No sleep, story daddy. Aiden, it's late. Mommy's tired, you're tired. No, daddy story. Chunguk arced a bro, clearly not used to being ordered around like this. A story? I don't tell stories, but Eden only crossed his arms and defense, looking exactly like Jungkook when he was annoyed. You couldn't help laughing. He got that look from you. Jungkook sighed, defeated. He leaned against the crib, lowering his voice in a dramatic tone. Once upon a time, there was a very scary mafia boss. Everyone feared him, except his wife and his tiny baby boy, who made him do anything they wanted. Eden squealed in delight, clapping his hands. Daddy boss, mommy queen, Eden prince. You laughed so hard you had to cover your mouth. Chunguk shook his head, but his lips twitched with a weird smile as he kissed Eden's forehead. Fine, Prince Eden, go to sleep now. Kingdom's orders. Finally content, Eden yawned and snuggled into his pillow. Eyes drooping shut, his little voice mumbled one last thing before drifting off. Daddy hugged mommy. Chunguk pulled you close instantly, whispering against your temple. Even asleep, he's bossing me around. You laughed softly, leaning into his embrace, and as the three of you stood in the glow of the nursery lamp, you realized you had everything Serena could never touch: love, loyalty, and the family you once thought you would never have.